everyone. Kira, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Tūhono Health. It's a new podcast, and this is the first episode I'm shooting. I've been trying to work on my equipment for the past 2 hours, and I'm happy it's pulling together again. In this podcast, we weave together health, culture, and community to spark meaningful conversations about life, about research, about living in general. I am your host, Rhoda Winners. I'm a health researcher at the university here. I'm a mother. I'm a newcomer to New Zealand. Here I'm navigating this beautiful, bright, vibrant land of the abiding day with curiosity and respect. Today, we're diving into a topic close to my heart, and it's cultural competence in research and why this matters as a niche in health research in New Zealand context. In a world where research shapes lives, and cultural competence, or safety as we like to call it here, is not just a buzzword. It's a game changer wherever you find yourself as a researcher anyways. As a health researcher who is settling into New Zealand, I'm learning how culture shapes science, especially here where biocultural values are front and center. We'll explore what cultural competence means, and probably why it should be called cultural safety instead, why it's a vital research niche, and how New Zealand's unique context sets a global standard for cultural competence in research. Expect stories, cultural insights, and practical tips for researchers like me and maybe you, because wherever we are, there are cultures. There are different people, with different ways of doing things. Whether you're in academia, whether you're a parent juggling work and family, or just curious about New Zealand's cultural heartbeat, this episode is for you, and I'll ask you to turn on your notification for any episode that come out of this podcast, which we'll try to be doing on a weekly basis. Before we start, I want to acknowledge the indigenous people of this land and commit to learning from their wisdom as I find my place in this land of New Zealand. So let's get started. What is cultural competence? How do we define it? Or do we call it cultural safety? Because you get to a place of confidence in the culture, then learn to become competent and see if you can engage in the safety of it. It's about understanding respecting, engaging effectively with cultures that are different from yours. So if I'm from Nigeria, which is a different culture from New Zealand, it's about understanding and engaging effectively with the New Zealand culture. In research, it's more than good manners. It's designing studies that honor diverse worldviews, avoid harm, deliver better outcomes. Now, as a health researcher, I've seen how Western models, hypotheses, analysis, direct can clash with relational community-based knowledge systems. But why is this a niche? Globally, cultural competence is gaining traction. Universities teach it, journalists highlight it, funding bodies demand it. So if you've ever written or put in a grant application before, you see how important it is to highlight the cultural aspects of it. Here in New Zealand, it's not optional. It's essential, especially in health research where disparities affect the Maori and Pacific communities disproportionately. Whether for ethics application or data collection or analysis storage or even everyday discussions, defining or incorporating cultural competence is very important. It's a salient aspect of research in New Zealand. The other word to use, like I've been mentioning before, is cultural safety. However, for the sake of this episode, I think we'll just stick to cultural competency, because those are two different things anyways. Please, for those of you who do not know the definition of culture or culture in the context of research, you can just check the definitions in your own context, in your own location, in your own words. So a wise suggestion for a new person like me who is coming into a country for the first time, starting research, I advise start small. Cultural competence builds on the concept of cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness. It refers to the ability of healthcare providers, professional workers, to apply knowledge and skill appropriately in interactions with clients or your patients or your colleagues or your supervisors or just, people you live with. You can read Terry Cross's work on cultural competence continuum from, I think, the 90s, from destructiveness to proficiency. This Terry Cross cultural model describes cultural competence as a developmental continuum through 6 stages, ranging from cultural destructiveness to advanced cultural proficiency, emphasizing values, self-awareness, knowledge, and skills for effective cultural interaction. And Terry actually did a good work, and that was back in the 90s. People keep referring to that work till today, which I'm doing now. The model presents 6 developmental stages along a continuum, from negative to positive orientations towards culture. So as you're coming in, your orientation while you are at it, and then where you get to the competent level. So stage one, is the cultural destructiveness. It's where active attitudes and policies are harmful towards cultural groups, including attempts to eradicate or devalue culture. So this was where the Maori and Pacific people were a long time ago, when the Europeans and the Crown, started coming in to inhabit the land and things like that. Somehow policies were harmful towards such cultural groups, and it wasn't helpful to the health or the living of people in New Zealand, of the indigenous people of the land then. So the second stage is cultural incapacity, and that's lack of capacity or awareness to serve diverse groups effectively, and it's often characterized by ignorance or fear, perpetuating stereotypes and discriminatory practices. I like us to remember when the indigenous people used to be stereotyped as as violent, because of maybe their nature, or because of some research, a report a researcher presented decades ago saying the Maori people had a certain DNA that led them to violence. So if the Maori people were violent because of a certain DNA that they had, or a certain something they had in their DNA, and such stereotype made other cultures see the indigenous people as violent. I mean, just because they are Maori. So being Maori became a disease. Being indigenous, being an indigenous person of New Zealand became a disease. And so there was no capacity to bring them in, to absorb them, and so many discriminatory practices began to happen, including job loss, including people not wanting to employ them, including people not wanting to serve them because of those kind of stereotypes and discriminatory practices. The next stage is color blindness. Now you've you've seen the destructiveness, you've engaged, or people have engaged in the incapacity. And the next one is a philosophy of color blindness, where differences are ignored with the assumption that all people are the same, often resulting in ineffective service due to lack of cultural awareness. And I'm happy I'm doing this podcast now, because this is not just about the indigenous people of New Zealand anymore. It's about almost everyone, every immigrant who is coming in, notwithstanding your culture, your background, your race, your color. Yeah, there's blindness. The philosophy of blindness keeps occurring even till now, where people are ignored, differences are ignored. Say I go to a GP, for instance, the way he sees me as a Black person, is ignored. He doesn't. He treats me and probably with the mindset of the population he studied in school. So differences are ignored, like a Maori person or an indigenous person or even an immigrant who goes to look for a job. There's this attitude of generalization where, oh, this person is Black. This person must not be good because this person is Black. What does this person have to say in this room because this person is Black? Or what does this person has to say? Or this person should not understand English because he's Chinese or he's Asian. So that is color blindness. The attitude of generalization, assuming that everyone you meet from a certain culture is the same, and it results to ineffective services, because one is not aware of the other person's cultural background. The next model is cultural pre-competence. Now you're beginning to gain traction. You're beginning to gain understanding of the other people's culture. You're beginning to be aware and maybe concerned about where these other people are coming from and who they are, and the cultural values that they engage. And you are in the stage of cultural pre-competence. Now, it's like recognition of cultural differences now, and beginning with efforts to improve responsiveness to improve responsiveness to the other people. So although efforts may be incomplete and inconsistent, this stage involves initial attempts, such as minority hiring or cultural training. So many people that I've met are in this stage. In fact, many employers in New Zealand, or many supervisors, just people who have been here for a while, they're in this stage of cultural competence, where they are now making attempts to hire people of other cultures, like in minority, like with few numbers. So if they had 10 people, if they had to hire 10 people in the organization, they'll hire maybe one person from another culture and probably 9 people from people they are used to, right? So, but then again, their initial attempts, their cultural training, people are opening up to train people from other cultures and other backgrounds about what they want. So it's not a totally a no, or it's not a totally a someone stopping. No one is stopping anyone right now. It's just that the speed at which it is done is still slow, but then it's happening. It's better than being culturally blind or colorblind. Yeah. So the next one is basic cultural competence. Now you've come into the country, you are passing through all these stages, cultural pre-competence and the rest. And that even reminds me of when I newly came to New Zealand. I think I had passed through all this phase, and for me, I can say at the basic cultural competence level now, because there were lots of stories about other cultures, the Maori, the Pacific people, lots of stories about the Chinese, the Indians, and everything. But then what happened to me was because I came in as a researcher and I came in as a student. So I kept having conversations with these people almost every time I go to school. And I could see that most times what I am told or what I read from papers were quite different from, normal everyday conversations. These people actually had stuff to share. These people actually, had or still have good points, good discussion points, to share. So it's quite different. So in basic cultural competence, there's acceptance, there's respect for cultural differences, which manifest in behavior and policy changes. Whether it's um, whether it's manifesting in policy changes right now, uh, may just be a fact, right? But then I've seen behaviors changing. Personally, my behavior has changed towards cultural differences. And then this gives the capacity to deliver culturally appropriate services. It gives you the capacity to organize or design your research in a culturally appropriate style. Yeah, where the ethics committee will study, will read it, and then they'll agree that, okay, whatever you're doing in your research will make meaningful cultural impact to their society. Then it also provides, being culturally competent, at least even at the basic level, provides the capacity to deliver culturally appropriate services and commitment to ongoing self-assessment and learning. So yeah, then the next stage is the advanced cultural competence, and that's the cultural proficiency, which I hope everyone should be working towards. Whether you're in New Zealand, in Canada, in the US, in Australia, wherever you are, I think as a researcher, as a newcomer in a place, or as someone that is interested in changing careers or changing locations, if you go to a place, I think it's one is the stage that everyone should work towards. It's a goal. Cultural proficiency, advanced cultural competence should be a goal. And what does it mean? It means like holding culture in high esteem. So holding the culture of a place in high esteem, actively advocating for cultural competence, educating others like I'm doing now. I'm not saying I'm culturally proficient, but I'm educating others. I'm speaking, right? Conducting research and developing innovatively, innovative, culturally sensitive practices and research designs and yeah. Then organizations and individuals, like people like you and I, are leaders in cultural competence, and we should not hide, or we should be sensitive towards this kind of practices. So in settling or curating your research, you need to carefully observe the cultural values of your research location. So whether the people like to participate in research or not, whether there's a way they like to do things before participating in such research, you need to know. You need to understand it and you need to respect it. Just like the iceberg picture, the picture of the iceberg, right? Where you only see the tip of the iceberg, but you don't really see what is underneath. You don't see what is under the water surface. Many a times we're like, what we see are the glams of the new place that you've come into, the location. That is the surface culture, including like the language, the food, the music, the arts, the clothing, the fashion, if you like that word, and even, the vegetation around. New Zealand is a beautiful place. Sometimes we forget that there are deeper things about it. And we forget the deep culture. We forget the deep concepts like future orientation of the place, time, orientation of time, interpersonal relationships, how people even make friends in that kind of place, the orientation of fairness, courtesy, manners, attitudes towards the elderly, children, authority, leadership, or communication cues like facial expressions. Ever since I came to this place, I've seen so many communication cues, so many verbal and facial expressions. And till now, I don't think I'm able to relate, or I don't think I'm able to interpret some of the facial expressions or body languages that I witness on a daily basis. But I guess as time go on, I'll continue to learn and maybe share some later. Then there are other communications like eye contact, personal space, display of emotions. Yeah, road rage, for instance. Sometimes you don't know why people just get angry on the road. Eye contact. In my place, let me just give you an instance from where I'm coming from. We're trained not to look at people in the eye, especially people that your seniors, like elders. When we're talking to elders, we're trained not to look at elders in the eye. But then here it is the opposite. So when someone is talking to you, whether the person is your mate or not in age, you're supposed to look at the person. Looking at the person here means you are attentive and you're respectful of the communication that is happening. But then back home in my home country, it's not like that. Your eyes were supposed to be lowered when you're talking to an elder. So you see the cultural differences. So all these are like the strong foundation holding it all together. So before we continue, I want you to reflect on where you stand, wherever you are, whether in New Zealand, in the US, in Africa, wherever you are. Reflect on the iceberg picture. Picture it again. If you don't know what it is, go to the internet, go to Google, just Google iceberg picture and take steps to begin to grow. As someone new to this country, I'm doing this myself. And I can tell you, I'm not there yet. I think I'm in the basic, level right now. I'm hoping to get to the proficiency level soon, anyways. So, just working on acknowledging cultural differences, the different cultural differences of New Zealand, the diverse ethnicities versus the Nigerian culture that is my own root. It's not easy for me because it's totally different. The cultures are different. The way we speak the language, the food, the greeting styles, everything is different. So I'm working to acknowledge these differences. Um, like I said before, you start small. Start small. I know I can't do everything um, um, at the same time, so I'm taking it easy. I'm understanding my own culture more. So this period where I'm learning the cultures of New Zealand is making me to understand my own culture more. It's making me to understand more about my own background, and and I'm engaging in self-assessment to know if, to know if I'm putting my learnings into practice. And doing that is me interacting, is in how I interact with people I meet on a daily basis, maybe on the bus, people I meet at the train stations, people I meet in school, people I meet in workshops or conferences. Uh, yeah, right. So now, this is not only about research or academics, but it also reflects in your everyday life, in your transactions as you settle into a new place, whether new countries or new states or new locations, or even as you settle in relationships. You know, when people get into relationships, like two people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different childhood, so they're coming into together in unity as in partnership. If so, if you put all these things into practice, I guess relationships should be good. Yeah. So we've talked about the biocultural imperative, the cultural differences, how to like get into cultural competence and the rest. So we're going to see a biocultural foundation that is rooted in the Treaty of Waitangi, which sets the stage for research. I'm taking my time in talking about this because it's a very serious and very important, very salient aspect of research, especially health research in New Zealand. The treaty was signed in 1840, and as of then, it promises partnership, protection, and participation for Maori. As a health researcher, I'm learning that means engaging Maori not as subjects, not as just participants, but as partners, respecting customs like hierarchy, the opening prayers and sayings, working together, However, in health research, we acknowledge the presence of other ethnicities, right? New Zealand is very diverse, has a very diverse population. So we acknowledge the presence of other ethnicities that make up the vibrant New Zealand population. Ethnicities like the Europeans, Asians, and Africans, not to forget how rooted the Pacific peoples are in New Zealand. I still love those ones, maybe because they look like me. And it's this diversity that makes New Zealand a vibrant destination. This is personal for me because I moved here with family, and moving here with family, I've felt the warmth of the people's hospitality, inclusive of European Kiwis and Maori. But also the weight of the responsibility to get it right, like to get it right with culture, with settling, with knowing what to do at the right time. I've lived out in the country, like I live rural with my family, and it's been nothing short of friendliness, making us feel welcomed, like welcoming us to the community as though it's like welcome home, my child. For me, I felt that like that long lost child who just found her way back home. I felt welcome back home. Now, in health, cultural safety, which was pioneered by a Maori nurse, us to reflect on power dynamics. Okay, I know I'm not going to talk about cultural safety anymore. But then it's why the Kaupapa Maori research led by Maori for Maori is a global model. Now, don't get it wrong. That it's a Kaupapa Maori research led by Maori for Maori doesn't mean that it doesn't involve all other ethnicities. In fact, it involves every other ethnicity in New Zealand. What they are trying to do or what they are trying to push is equity, that everyone, no matter who, gets the right services that they deserve at the right time from the right people. So, studies have shown that cultural competence includes self-awareness, cultural understanding, intercultural communication, relationship building, flexibility, and adaptability. This is the point where I'm supposed to introduce my guest and let them share their thoughts and stories, but I have none yet. So I'm promising to bring in someone who will share deeper insights on this topic. However, as researchers or other professionals, we must remember that people are the most important thing, and a sense of community is what binds us all. That was a lesson I learned early in care and respect while preparing for my ethics application. Yeah, and so what's a good thing to do before you begin? Like I said, start small. Begin to engage the iwi. The iwi meaning the people. Engage them early and begin to build relationships quickly. As a mom, I know relationship building takes time, but in this case, they are worth it. They are worth it for your research. They are worth it for your settling in a new country, a diverse country like New Zealand. Yeah. So engage people early, engage the people you plan to partner with early, begin to speak to people and key stakeholders early, even people in your community, right? You don't know what might come out of such innocent conversations. So we've defined cultural competence, and Terry Cross's work on competence continuum, looking at the 6 developmental stages governing cultural orientations. We've also looked at a biocultural imperative, given the New Zealand context. You can use it in your own, wherever you are, right? In the context of wherever country or culture that you are based. And we've also looked at what cultural competence might include. In this last segment, we'll eyeball why cultural competence matters as a research niche, offering suggestions on how to build cultural competence as a researcher in New Zealand. So now, this is not just ethical. Cultural competence is not only ethical. It improves science. It improves lives. It improves communication. It improves living, right? So in health, Maori knowledge about Rongoa. Rongoa is the Maori traditional healing methods or strategies. It informs modern care. And globally, indigenous insights are driving innovations, like how the Pacific navigation, aiding oceanography. But without competence, research can harm. Although it improves science, if there's no competence in culture, research can harm. Remember the Maori warrior gene study that stereotyped communities, like I said before. You can read more about it if you're interested. It's a 2009 paper that showed how a team of researchers identified a genetic influence for a range of antisocial behaviors in New Zealand's Maori population. It was dubbed the warrior gene. The behaviors include criminality, violence, gambling, and alcoholism. They stated that the propensity of Maori towards violence and aggression has been assigned to the expression of a unique monoamine oxidase gene, popularly referred to as a warrior gene. Now, this assignment suggested that the violence supposedly exhibited by Maori is due to the very nature of Maori himself. That is, making being Maori a disease. So what they were saying then was, if you're Maori, no, being Maori was a disease. Now, whether this was true or not, this stereotype was a major disadvantage to these people. And they were instead battling the impact of colonization. So while they were battling the impacts of colonization, racism, and the rest, they were also battling this kind of stereotype that was set to marginalize their communities. Now, some saw this stereotype as outright racism, especially because the researchers were of European origin, and of course, cultural misalignment. Today, the voices of indigenous people matter, whether in research, in communications, business, healthcare, and other areas. As a niche, it's growing. Health Research Council now require Maori co-design. That is, you work with Maori to co-design, to design your research. So yeah, whether at the end you are going to need them to participate in your research or not, you work with them to co-design. And that's very important. And I see that as something that the government has done, and that should be appreciated. Now, that is the process of co-designing. Now is a process of collaborating with the iwi to gain new insights into the research problem, because they are the people, the owners of the land, are to tell you what their problem is and how you go about solving that problem. Now, as a newcomer, I'm inspired by such kind of ideas and projects, like the projects like the He Kainga Oranga, which tackles housing and health inequities with the voices of indigenous people. In my opinion, what I would suggest is embrace data sovereignty wherever you are, whether in New Zealand, wherever you are. Embrace the data sovereignty, the sovereignty of the people of the land that you are, and how they should, be in charge or in control of the data that you collect, the data that you share. Share findings with communities, not just journals. Enough of this publishing and abandoning things. Share findings with communities. It's like sharing stories with my kids. Just make it meaningful in conferences, in workshops, in HOIs. And that's why you should subscribe and follow this podcast, because this is what we'll be doing. They will be sharing stories. Yeah, we'll be sharing such beautiful communications. Right. So, building competence takes work, and that's the truth. As a PhD student and a mom of 3, I juggle a lot. Most times it's really difficult, but the thing is, reflection is key. I remember I remember thinking I could just progress with my research when I came newly, not needing to worry about cultural competence or cultures at all, or safety, as we like to call it. That didn't work out. I am still learning the intricacies of how to be culturally competent, how to acknowledge the voices of the indigenous people and other ethnic groups who have been rooted in New Zealand for centuries, or even decades, right? There is a story about a researcher in Rotorua who first ignored a sacred hot spring significance while doing some research there. That research almost failed, right? Because how to go about it, everything about doing research in that hot spring was invalidated, was ignored. But then when the researcher learned Tikanga, that Tikanga is a right way of doing things, or how to engage and do things, and co-designed and worked with the iwi, worked with the people to co-design, there was a better study, there was a better result. Now that's my goal here: to learn, to adapt, to grow. Would it be challenging? Yes. Is it challenging now? Definitely. And two of those challenges are time and access. Time is running out and access is a bit limited, right? Because people are also busy. But resources like TRT workshops help a lot. I've joined a lot of workshops about Maori responsiveness in research, understanding the treaty, and other trainings. I would suggest reflecting daily, right? Learn ways of doing things. Call it tikanga. I'm starting to learn the language now, at least the basics. Collaborate with the people. Measure community impact and own mistakes with action. If you made a mistake either in your research design or in communicating with people, communicating your research, own it. Nobody's going to hurt you or kill you for it. Newcomers or new researchers in other countries can use this too. When you get to a country, understand their culture, understanding this culture will help you understand how to design your research more, especially when it's something you want to do for a long term. So, after all, different people have different cultures and different expectations. So, I think we'll just have to stop here for today. We've gone over 40 minutes. It's some long talk here. So if you have any questions or areas you'd like us to discuss, please drop those in the comment section. I'm reflecting on my own as a newcomer. So like with questions like, can I, who is an outsider or a foreigner, be culturally competent? The answer is yes, right? Yes, you can. Or like Obama will say, yes, we can. Yeah. However, the journey, it's a journey, so it's not a one-day thing. It's not something you just close your eyes and open it and it happens. Like, it's a journey. So you listen, you learn, you form allies, you form friendships with people. Another question could be, how does this fit health research? In New Zealand, it's ensuring that Maori health equity, like addressing diabetes or chronic pain or mental health disparities, right? So you are ensuring Maori health equity. You are ensuring equity for other ethnicities too, right? So it's not as if one is getting good treatment and another person does not deserve to get one, right? Not forgetting to include other ethnicities, right? In 2025, cultural competence build trust in health research everywhere. New Zealand's own is because of the biocultural model, which inspires me as a researcher and as a mom to connect and to contribute. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining Tūhono Health this week. Share your thoughts and join me next time. Stay strong. See ya.
Good night. Night, night. See you in the morning. Time to turn off the light. Night zero. Have a good one while the stars shine above. See you in the morning when the sun comes up. Note zero. Have a good one while the stars shine above.